Michelle, welcome.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you are the CEO of Logically.
That's
Is
correct.
that
Logically is a large managed service provider with a cybersecurity division operating across the U.S., supporting global brands.
that is really cool. Now, Logically, I feel like you guys sprung up out of nowhere. Like your company's been around for like less than 2 years, right?
Actually, that's not true. It's actually started back in 1999. The
Oh,
original company was called WinXnet, and then they changed their name back about, I think it was about 4 years ago to Logically.
well, I just recently started hearing about you guys. It felt like you guys are new. So kudos on whatever marketing and PR stuff you've started doing recently. This is
Well,
you're
thank you.
doing a great job.
We've just launched a brand new partner program, which I think is really helping to make us more known to other MSPs and in the marketplace.
Good for you. Now, I just want to spend a minute here because I love what you have going on your website with your website. Your logo is really cool. It's a smiley face, but you can't really tell it's a smiley face without looking for a moment, you know?
Well,
The
we
you
love
know,
making
you've
customers happy, so that's the
that's
underlying
fantastic. Yeah.
message.
Your website, like the design, it's snappy, it's clean, just everything about it. I feel like whoever did your website did a fantastic job. They really know what they're doing.
Oh, well, thank you
So,
very much. Really appreciate that. I will pass that on to our marketing team.
so one of the things that I want to talk to you about is, um, with Logically being, you know, let's face it, kind of huge, right? Um, you guys have you guys have accomplished a great deal, and you, Michelle, you have accomplished a great deal too. I mean, you've got history with I think Star to Star and CA.
Yeah, that's
I
correct.
mean,
No,
so
yeah, I spent 17 years at CA Technologies and 9 years at Star to Star and had a very successful exit to another great company called Sangoma. Had the opportunity to join Logically's board about 18 months ago and about 6 months ago to join Logically as CEO. So it's been a great run for me so far and excited to do even more.
that's fantastic. So one of the things that I'm seeing right now from some MSPs is they they're doing well. Okay. So, they started their MSP however many years ago. That doesn't matter. Right now, they might be at a point where they've got 150,000 annual revenue coming from like MRR, monthly recurring revenue, right?
Mhm.
So 150,000, it sounds like, oh, they're not doing too bad for themselves as one guy, but then you got to, you then remember, oh yeah, they've got all these costs associated with it, right? So that's the thing that I think the really small MSPs will forget because they'll look at a large MSP like Logically where you're doing, and I'm just going to speculate, let's call it, I don't know, 5-10 million a year. And
No. We're $100 million company.
yeah, so I said I'm just speculating. I
Yeah.
have no idea. Um, so okay, 100 million a year.
Mhm.
So, but with that 100 million, it's not like you, the CEO, are taking home 99
Oh,
million, 99
absolutely
million a
not.
year. Like you guys have costs. You
Absolutely.
have office space. You've got all the tools for the thousands of endpoints and end users that you're supporting. You've just got
Healthcare
all this
costs
stuff.
for our employees,
Yeah, you've got
benefits, all of
payroll.
those pieces.
You got to pay the unemployment insurance. I mean, there's all this stuff, right? So I think the saying, there was a great philosopher who once said, "Mo money, mo problems." Uh, so So whether you're at 150,000 or 150 million, uh, you still are going to have some of the same struggles unless you've kind of got your house in order, right?
Very true.
So when you're at the lower number, the 150,000, what would you say the right things for a CEO to do so that way they can start focusing on scale when they don't actually have enough right now to pay for any employees, and every time they try outsourcing, they just come up frustrated because the outsourced technical stuff is just not good enough.
Well, I would say, first of all, look at the entire partner ecosystem. It's not just about outsourcing, it's about when you look at other successful or larger MSPs that may have partner programs. For example, that's exactly what Logically just launched. We launched a partner channel such that we can help other MSPs or agents that don't have that capability to be able to build their own capabilities for cybersecurity, for instance, or to have their own 24 by 7 knock. They can partner with companies like Logically, and Logically, to provide that service, they can make a commission off of that and ensure they're getting great service. And there's contracts and terms involved that ensure that they're protected, that their customer's not going to be taken. They obviously have to look at those things carefully. Um, but when they're partnering with a great company and looking at the ecosystem uh, and choosing a partner like Logically, they know they can be safe, secure, and they're going to get the best talent because we have that scale and capability, and we can help them take their business to the next level. And as their business gets larger, when they get to the $3 million, $5 million range, and they may start to look for an exit, they've now created a partnership with a great company who might even be an acquirer in the future.
Okay, so when doing something like that, I think there are a few roadblocks that MSPs are going to have, right? First and foremost, they want to have ownership of the client. Um, something I'll say, there's a service out there called the 20. I don't want to talk about whether they're good or bad or anything other than the fact that what what their pitch is, you know, it's your company, right? You own the client, and you just, pay us for whatever you want to pay us for. You can partner with other uh uh members, partners, whatever you want to call them, and you guys can figure it out amongst yourselves as far as, how you want that to work. So that, I think, can be more appealing to an MSP, especially when they feel like they're in that stuck stage, right? Because let's face it, these MSPs, they're at the point where they're just so busy that they have to keep their customers happy, but they're not going to grow unless they go out and sell. So
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
how
So,
do they juggle that, right?
well, they can I think there's multiple, things to consider. So, they can also white label with a company like Logically, and do the same, model, but I would caution someone that when you are white labeling, whether you're white labeling the 20 or you're white labeling, another solution provider, um, you are not in control of the service that's being given. Now, I think you can be pretty confident if you're with Logically that it's going to be great service. But that may not be the case with other providers. And you're putting your brand, out in front. So if there's a problem, you have no one else to point to. When you partner and you disclose, hey, we're going to bring someone in who's got expertise to not only are you acting the way an internal IT department would act, because let's face it, if you're in the customer and you have an internal IT resource, you know that internal IT resource can't know everything. And what do they do? They grab in vendors that can help from the outside. And so, as a managed service provider, when you do that, you're showing that you have confidence in the skill sets that you have, the capabilities you have, and that you have this broad ecosystem that you can pull from. And again, you have contracts that protect you from someone coming in and stealing your customer. But you have the assurance that the very best service that you've vetted can do the job for
Mhm.
your customer. And if something goes wrong, it's not necessarily on you and on your brand because you could fire that vendor and that partner and bring someone else in. Whereas it's really hard if something goes wrong and it's under your brand, you have to eat all the crow on that. So that's the thing I would say to consider. Again, it's understanding the quality of the partnerships you have and also being realistic that problems can arise in any or every relationship. And it's who's on the other end of the phone who's going to help you or on the other end of the email who's going to help you in growing your business.
Okay. So let's say we maybe we partner with Logically, okay, or another company. We're not gonna. It's whatever, right? So we partner, and now we have scaled a little bit, and let's say we've 2x or 3x our revenue, and we really haven't added a whole lot of work because while we might go on site and be like the face, and almost be like the account manager, it sounds like Logically would do all the work,
That's correct. Yeah.
at least all the remote work.
All the IT, and cybersecurity work, yes.
Okay. Um, so now we've scaled and now we want to start offering stuff as ourselves because, now we can afford to bring on an actual employee. And because we've worked with Logically, maybe is there a way we can do like a hybrid? Like, do you have different type of partnerships?
Yeah, at different levels, certainly, and again, um, we are flexible. It's actually one of our core values is being nimble.
Hmm.
So we would work with that partner to understand, especially if they're in a location, let's say, we have 12 locations around the US, but let's say they're in a location that we're not in. So there's not a real competitive situation. There's no reason why we would want to keep them from, continuing to grow. Again, we see this as an opportunity for us to get to know MSPs better, and not just MSPs, there are a lot of different types of channel partners in the ecosystem. We're working with a lot of agents who have traditionally done telecom, but now want to break into IT and cybersecurity. There's a lot of convergence happening, and we're working a lot with those agents as well.
Okay. So so now maybe we've reached that point and we start to do some things on our own. We still have some customers working with you, and maybe we do a referral, sometimes we do it ourselves. It's fine. We doesn't matter. Okay. So how do you scale once you're at that half a million? So what would you, the CEO, be focusing on at $500,000 so that way you can take your company to $1 million and also try to make sure that you've got uh I don't know how you want to how you want to have a healthy business, right?
So I think
um
first of all, referral relationships out of your current customers are critical. In fact,
okay.
that's how I see many MSPs growing when they're at a small stage. So don't be afraid to ask your customers for other recommendations into other businesses locally. Partnerships. That's the next. You're going to specialize in specific technologies. If you can partner with technology reps for the companies that you're selling their services, they can bring you leads as well and to help you scale your business. And then again, use the channel. As you bring on new customers, you may or may not be able to afford to hire. So don't be afraid to partner your way into the next level of business. Ultimately, it's a giant ecosystem, and you will get referrals each way. I mean, I can tell you there are times where there are locations where maybe someone grows into that we might call on someone who is, a smaller MSP in a market where we need a specialized help. That's just the nature of this business. So relationships drive them wherever you can across the ecosystem.
One thing that I've heard, um, and I disagree with the statement, is once you get to a certain size, um, and I don't know how many millions that size is. I think it might be different for everyone in every market, right? That it feels like you can't continue to have that healthy rate of growth unless you start looking at acquisitions. What do
I
you
think
feel
you
about
can
that?
I think you can grow organically, you can. Again, I think it's all about developing the right relationships. I think it's marketing. I so few MSPs actually invest in their marketing and developing new relationships
Hmm.
via social media, via just direct marketing and such, but I think those are opportunities, again, that, you don't have to spend a lot of money on, but get involved with your local chamber, get involved, uh, uh, again, in local networking organizations, to help ask for the referrals. Those are the things that I think help, companies grow, and then also your employees. As you do bring on employees, ultimately, employees are a great source to go out and find new opportunity and to scale the business. I like to say everyone is a salesperson in an organization, whether you're service delivery, what you represent the
Hmm.
brand of the company, and I think if there's a will, there's a way.
I like that. And I agree with that 100%. It, I had it and I lost it.
Welcome to 2022.
Yeah. Welcome to my brain. So one thing that I do want to ask, you're not a technical person, right? You don't consider yourself like the IT expert.
I would say it's hard for anyone to consider themselves an IT expert nowadays. Technology moves so fast, but I mean, I've been in the tech industry for over 25 years. I've written a line of code or two, not well, but
Okay. But so to clarify, you want yourself to be providing support to your customers today?
it depends on what product. So yeah, it depends on.
Okay. So
I would say this that I I hire the right people for the right roles, with regards to technical capability. I certainly have expertise after 9 years in the telecommunication UCAS
mhm.
field that I would feel very comfortable providing technical support. But if you were asking me to be the Citrix expert on their a
Right.
remote desktop, probably not.
And I just want to clarify, I'm not asking that question as like a gotcha or trying to like low key diss you or anything like that. My point is as a company scales, as a company grows, the the owner, the president, CEO, whatever title you've given yourself, um, what I sometimes when I think of the title, I think of what Zuckerberg put on his first business card. Uh, Completely inappropriate. But that was his title. That was what he put on his business card. It really doesn't matter what you call yourself. At the end of the day, you have a responsibility to your business to
Yeah, you don't have to be the person who is leading the organization, I think needs to be technically strong enough to call um if someone is telling them a story or not around something, but ultimately does not have to be an expert in a given technology. I think they have to be an expert in helping people solve problems, whatever those problems will be. And by the way, most often in this business, I find the issues are not actual technical problems. They're problems of process or of people with regards to collaboration and such. So a lot of my time is spent listening to customer pain points around areas where maybe other vendors haven't provided good service and ensuring that they're going to get that kind of service from us and putting together processes that help their businesses scale as well as making our business scale. So that's where I spend the majority of my time.
Excellent. And that's really what it has to be. You need to start looking at the bigger picture, um, so that way you gotta find the experts because you can't be the expert at
You
everything.
can't because
You
you
shouldn't.
can't scale the business. Again, I'm not going to be one taking the tier one tech support conversation in my organization, but I am the one to say that if something goes wrong, that I own it and I'm going to make sure that something gets handled by the right individuals in the organization.
Perfect. Now you are at, like we said, roughly 100 million revenue annually.
Mhm.
That I mean, that sounds huge. Like
It is huge.
you you don't
There are
you
very
don't need
few that
more.
are very, very few companies that reach the scale that Logically has, and we're continuing to grow, both organically, because it's important that we continue to grow our base, as well as through additional M&A.
Um, where's your next goal? So like, you're like I said, 100 million is your next goal, like, or milestone, I'll say. Like, do you feel like you're aiming for a billion?
Well, I think that that's something that is very, very possible. And ultimately, I sort of set short-term and long-term goals. I know where I want to be organically over the next year and in terms of double-digit revenue growth organically. And then, opportunistically, I look at where it makes sense from a mergers and acquisition standpoint to get us to even further scale. And really for us, it's about the services that we're going to be able to or should say additional services we can provide and additional scalability we can provide to our customers by doing acquisitions. It's not doing acquisitions for acquisition's sake. It's really finding the right fit to make sure that we are providing the best service we can in the markets that we're serving today. And then what additional solutions our customers are looking for that we can then go acquire that talent via an acquisition.
Now, with acquisitions, this is the last thing I want to talk about because I think it is a part of scale, but I don't think it's the only way to scale once you reach a certain point. When you're looking for other companies to acquire, and I'm not going to ask you who you're looking at. I know you'll never answer. But when you're looking at companies to acquire, what are you looking for? Like specifically, like, are you gonna, like, for example, would you say, all right, well, right now we don't have any type of web design services, and I think if we expanded to that and acquired one or two really great web design firms, that this would be a great way for us to uh, gain additional revenue from our existing client base, or something along those lines. Like, is that kind of what you think about when
Yeah,
you're looking at acquisitions?
I think a little more horizontally, actually. I think and vertically. So I might be saying to myself, look, generally am not acquiring companies that are under 3 to 5 million in revenue that have positive. They need to have a level of positive EBITDA or a path to positive EBITDA. That's sort of the
Sure.
first milestone and requirement. The next thing I look for is where are they located with regards to proximity to the current locations we have today, and can they bolster the capabilities of my regional teams with regards to services we already have, or expertise in, again, maybe it's, we have great Microsoft expertise. Maybe it's looking at what Google expertise that someone has, or or what healthcare expertise, or in industries that are interesting to us. Generally highly regulated industries, we find leverage MSP services at greater, I'll just say, at a greater velocity. So we might be looking at those types of things. But ultimately, it's not one technology that we're looking for, or eh, we're more than happy to look at a generalist MSP, as long as that they're at the revenue states and the EBITDA states that we're looking for, and in locales that again help us bolster the current capabilities we have.
Wonderful. And then with that, do you ever think about acquiring, like the MSPs that sometimes they develop something internally for them to just be able to do their jobs better,
Oh,
right?
sure. I
Do you
mean, if
ever
it I mean, I love to look at proprietary tech and how it helps.
Yeah.
So, that always makes a company more valuable if they have some level of proprietary. But again, it's all in how is it developed? How sustainable is it? Is it well documented? Oftentimes, those things are not in the DNA of smaller MSPs. But I think it's really important that if you are going to develop proprietary tech, that can make you more valuable, that you've got really great documentation that enables a larger MSP or other strategic acquirer to take advantage of it.
Michelle, I have one last question for you. What is one thing that any MSP of any size should be doing better so that way they can continue to scale healthily?
They should be partnering. And when I say partnering, I mean that across multiple vectors. The technology vendors that you're selling, whether that's Microsoft, whether that's Dell or Lenovo, or what you name it. You should be getting to know your local reps in those companies, and building relationships to help bring opportunities to you. Uh, and then you should be looking at other types of partnerships, whether that's with technology brokers and such that can bring you additional scale and capability, and or other larger MSPs that have partner programs that you can use to extend your services further, like logically.
Of course I did. There's somebody ripping wood through a chainsaw or some, I don't know what they're doing, but I muted myself and forgot to unmute. So thank you so much for all of this knowledge that you've been imparting us with. I really appreciate that. Um, I appreciate you, and I look forward to having you on again in the future, just so that way we can continue
That's
this
awesome.
awesome conversation.
Thank you, Steve. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and hope to do another podcast with you in the future. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Take care.